Texans draft Jayden Higgins in the second round and gives C.J. Stroud what we've all been asking for. Please give C.J. Stroud more weapons and some protection up front. Jayden Higgins can't do that much about the protection, but he can offset Nico Collins as a big physical dude with a big catch radius, can catch the contested ball. He's got downfield speed. The comp for him by a lot of pre-draft experts was Nico Collins. So can he live up to that potential? That's the big question. I've been very pleased to see some of the things that people were saying about him before the draft. One of them is Steve Smith, a noted, pretty damn good receiver. On his YouTube channel, this is Steve Smith gushing about Jayden Higgins before the draft. The audio is from Steve Smith. I added some highlights over the top.
Man, he's just a good football player. Great job of separation, can get in and out of breaks, can drop his weight, has ability, physical at the line of scrimmage. He fights through contact. Yes, he can catch on the jump balls, but when we compare him to T-Mac, this is what I would love to see T-Mac do, some of these things on a consistent basis where he can fight through getting pressed up. I think that's, with Higgins, I think that's the difference, what makes him such a unique football player. And yes, he's tall, but he actually plays to his strength and his height versus some of the other guys who are a little bit taller who are not.
Steve Smith, very much like Jayden Higgins. Worth mentioning that he didn't necessarily have Jayden Higgins ranked all that high on his receivers ratings, but Jayden Higgins was this guy that before the draft, you started to hear a lot of people say, hey, the guy nobody's talking about, or the sleeper that is way better than people realize is Jayden Higgins. James Palmer, who's on Steve Smith's 89 Steve Smith YouTube channel, talks to a lot of people. He's been in the NFL forever, is covering the NFL. He's very plugged in. This is what James Palmer had to say about what one NFL coach was saying about Jayden Higgins.
I had a high-level decision maker tell me this. I don't know why he's not getting more pub. He killed it at the combine. He ran good every time we've seen him run. He looks the part. He's got great size. I think somebody's going to sneak into the first round and take him, and everybody else is going to be going, oh, we shouldn't have waited.
Look, the people that say, hey, this guy could go in the first round, that round, whatever it might be, I think that the difference between late first round and early second round is negligible. It's just kind of an arbitrary demarcation on the continuum of where the actual talent is. The upside is Nico Collins. The upside is, a big physical guy that's got great speed, needs to work on his route running because for big guys, it is harder to break down as crisply and as precisely. That's something that Nico Collins has gotten a lot better at. I think Andre Johnson being in the building is a really good resource. Jayden Higgins was on the NFL on NBC with Connor Rogers, and Connor Rogers asked him, hey, which player do you emulate? Who do you like to watch on film? And he gave an answer that kind of surprised me, but that I really, really liked.
I definitely try to watch Keenan Allen, as far as his releases, really just how he gets open in the route, certain stems he uses. And, just like I said, the way he gets open is incredible. So, yeah, I like to watch him.
That's not what I expected. I expected to hear a Mike Evans or a Nico Collins or somebody like that, a bigger guy. But if you're a bigger guy but who has an appetite to watch the guys like Keenan Allen who are crafty. I mean, remember, Keenan Allen ran a 4.7, and he's a classic guy. He's faster than he runs his 40, but he gets it done with a whole lot of understanding leverage, with footwork, with some things that are kind of unorthodox. So I like when a bigger guy is watching somebody that he can never actually match all the stuff that Keenan Allen does, but the savvy side of it and what NFL scouts will say about him is that, yeah, he's got a good feel for manipulating leverage, for using his body to get open. I think he does a lot of the big guy stuff well, but adding in that nuanced part of the game, I like that he's a student of the game in that regard. Yeah, Nico and Andre will get Higgins ready to roll. I think it's a rich environment. And if you think about what the Texans have done on the team in general, you look at the defensive line. All right, Will Anderson, all the talent in the world, but he was kind of raw as a pass rusher. They've got, at any given time, 3 or 4 guys on that defensive line who are 30 years old or older. It's Danielle Hunter, it's Danico Autry, it's Jerry Hughes for a couple years. There's a hint of J.J. Watt for a moment, and J.J. Watt will still talk to Will Anderson. So he's got no deficit of mentors to help him out. I think with Nico Collins helping out Jayden Higgins, very much the same scenario. Andre Johnson is out there helping these guys out a lot. And both Andre and Nico are guys who they'll sit down on a stop route, on the breaking routes. They get their hips a lot lower than you expect. It is something that Nico's gotten better at. And all the reports about Jayden Higgins are that he's a guy that's willing to work at it. And that's a big theme in this draft. It seems like they took a lot of guys where you look at the quotes from coaches and scouts about them, and hard worker, leader, all of those things come up. One of the anonymous scouts, I go to Bob McGinn from Go Long TD. Bob McGinn comes out with anonymous GMs who are just trashing people, like the really scintillating headline-grabbing quotes. Bob McGinn has all those. The worst thing that I could find from Bob McGinn on Jayden Higgins from the anonymous scouts are the things that you would see from his film. He's quarterback friendly. He's got good hands, big frame, strong, physical, more smooth in his routes, but he can get up the field. Not really twitchy in the open field, but he can stride out and get those yards. Day 2 guy. That's as scandalous as it gets with Jayden Higgins. Just a whole lot of, hey, bigger guy. He's got build-up speed more so than just twitchy speed. A lot of the things you could say about Nico Collins. When you look at the athletic profile, I'll bring up the spider chart. Here's Jayden Higgins. So you can see his 40 wasn't all that great. He ran a sub 4.5 for whatever that's worth. But look, he's explosive with his vertical, with his broad jump. He's got the height. He's got the weight. He's got the wingspan. He doesn't have the short area drills here. But I think a lot of it might end up looking like Nico Collins' chart, where Nico actually didn't test as well in a lot of those things. And then in things like the 20-yard shuttle, a lot of things that suggest build-up speed, but not that short, twitchy speed. This is why the comp, and on mockdraftable.com where you can find those spider charts, Nico Collins was one of the guys that Jayden Higgins compared to on the spider chart. I think if Jayden had done all those drills that Nico had done, the spider chart would probably look really, really similar. So that's where Higgins having an appreciation for the nuanced side of the game, I really, really like to hear, because that's exactly what he needs to continue to keep working on. Here's Steve Smith again.
You know who he reminds me of? Mike Evans.
Okay.
When I was watching this film, I was like, hey, that Mike Evans right there.
Wow. That's high praise there. But what about Mike's game? Is it the smoothness? Is it the smoothness at the size?
Just like Mike Evans, he knows exactly what he lacks in his clock time. He understands that he's not going to be 4-3. But when Mike gets into his route and he's able to maneuver himself, he finds himself stacking you and putting you out of position with leverage, savviness, and his size. That's what reminded me of Mike Evans.
Yeah, so good to hear that Mike Evans comp, and wondering the bigger guys like Mike Evans and Nico Collins, those things they do well. The other thing about him, one more anonymous quote from Go Long TD, where if there's something negative to say about a prospect, they're going to say it about him. He can track and adjust to the ball well, big catch radius, has strong hands, fluid athlete. He can get PIs by extending vertically and closing the cushion. He's a red zone threat for sure with his size. My biggest concern was blocking. He'll get in the way, but he has to develop a more aggressive mentality and physicality. Overall, a really good player. His floor is a really good number 2. He's definitely in the second round conversation. I like hearing that about the floor being number 2. And the other side of it is, as long as he's willing to work, when, as I said with Ursary, you can't teach size. The size is the size. And man, as much as we love the small, scrappy dude that just gets it done and takes on the Goliath, if you're a bigger dude that knows how to use your size, you've got an advantage and you can overcome a lot of those athletic differences. So he has the athleticism, he has the hands, he has all of that stuff. It's the intangibles and his willingness to work on the more nuanced stuff that, by all reports, he definitely has. One of the the one anonymous scout finished it with saying, "Great kid, great kid." This is Jayden Higgins pitching his Iowa State teammate Jaylin Noel to Connor Rogers on the NFL on NBC.
Yeah, I would just say a great guy. First of all, someone that's a leader. He's going to help the team win at the end of the day, and someone that, of course, his performance is great on the field, but even better person off the field.
Yeah. And I've seen people point out that when Jayden Reed talks, he's got a little bit of a Jalen Petrie to him. So with Jayden in the receiving core, We've got a Jalen Petrie and Jalen Reed in the defensive backfield. And we've got Jaylin Noel. Am I missing any Jaylens or Jaydens or Jada Pinkett Smith? Jada Pinkett Smith needs to adopt this team. It's full of young, handsome men. I hear Jada Pinkett Smith is into that. The Jaylin Noel side of things, we've addressed this, but the compliment of a guy who's a big, classic X-type receiver who can line up on the outside. You want to have speed underneath, and they have that with Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk's had his injury issues the last couple years. I do think, myself included, I think we're sleeping on Christian Kirk a little bit just because the situation he was in Jacksonville, where the last couple years they've brought in first Calvin Ridley and then Brian Thomas to be kind of the numero uno stud. You forget that 3 years ago, Christian Kirk had a breakout year with the Jaguars and looked really, really good. And then he's been injured the last couple years to boot. So I think there's, as long as he can stay healthy, an upside there with Christian Kirk that maybe we're not thinking about. But you also have this younger guy who's blazingly fast and could really do some damage underneath and open things up for the big guys on the outside, and vice versa. Those big guys on the outside can open things up for Jaylin Noel and Christian Kirk. The big question and the X factor in all of this is, will they have time to do all this? Because if you look at the Texans last year, man, they couldn't even really get the quick game going because too often CJ had pressure right up in his face. Like, that's bad when you don't even have time to get a mesh concept going or a crosser over the middle. And a lot of times when CJ was getting the ball to Stephon Diggs early in the season, it was with tight coverage. And it wasn't because Stephon Diggs couldn't get open. It was because they just felt comfortable really playing Stephon Diggs aggressively, figuring somebody's going to get to the quarterback eventually. So that's the big X factor in getting the most out of any of these guys. Love that we added 3 different quick short yardage options, and Kirk, Noel, and Woody Marks really missed that last year. When we talk about developing the quick game, you're exactly right. We need to bring up Woody Marks. And I think some of the guys where, however you have your running backs power ranked, I know a lot of people thought that Woody Marks should have gone later than some of the guys who are still on the board. I think the receiving ability was probably huge for them. I love Agumbawale and what they ask him to do in that role, but he's not your classic third down scat back by a long shot, but he gets it done. Credit to him for getting it done. And he's also getting up there in years where this is a young, smooth, and athletic dude who is really good as a receiver. I mean, as a runner, I really like him. He's got that one thing that's hard to judge and you can't coach it, which is patience and vision.